This is the new Weight Watchers, built for real life and real results, no matter what mode you're in. Maddie went all in for her big day and lost 33 pounds. Emily lost 85 pounds and hit her goal while still living her life.
Weight Watchers gave me the tools and I feel amazing.
Join the millions of members and lose weight with the #1 doctor-recommended weight loss program. Lose more at WeightWatchers.com.
At 6 months, participants in a clinical trial of Weight Watchers program lost an average of 12 pounds.
Are Canada's airports for sale? And the Liberals try to keep things quiet about a growing scandal in healthcare. This is Now You Know. I'm Rob Snow.
Going beyond the headlines.
Now You Know with Rob Snow on News Radio.
Are big changes coming to Canada's airports? That's the buzz in Ottawa. And a senior Liberal cabinet minister isn't really trying to dispel the rumors in the air. This idea of a new ownership model for Canadian airports has been floating above Ottawa for quite some time, ever since the publication of a policy statement by Transport Canada. In that statement, the Liberal government said it was looking for ways to infuse private sector investment into the national airport system. Steve McKinnon is the government House Leader. He's also the Minister of Transport. He was cornered by members of the press gallery who were looking for answers about what the government is thinking here.
Now, what makes the government think that the private sector can run airports more safely and efficiently than the government runs them for public service? They're a common good, right?
Indeed, they are a public good, and I don't think that spirit or that philosophy will change. Indeed, we want to make airports a better experience for Canadians. We want to make air travel more generally more fluid and better experience and for Canadians while keeping it affordable.
When McKinnon was asked point blank if the Carney government is going to privatize Canada's airports, like the Island Airport in Toronto, known as the Billy Bishop Airport, he didn't rule it out.
Look, we're open to options there. We're continuing to follow the debate at Queen's Park. When the province is ready to have some discussions, we'll be there to see what they...
You'd be open to the privatization completely of that airport?
That airport is already largely privatized. That particular airport, well, I just want you to be, perhaps, Tonda, very careful with how you characterize it. That airport is currently owned by a private owner. The land is not, as is the case with most, if not all, airports. But that airport and its operations are currently in private hands.
Transport Canada notes that most airports in Canada are operated on federal land through long-term ground leases. Sometimes those leases involve private interests. Most, though, involve not-for-profits or non-share capital corporations known as airport authorities. In Toronto, the small downtown airport, Billy Bishop, is the subject of an intense debate right now. The provincial government, led by Ontario Premier Doug Ford, is moving to take control of the Billy Bishop Airport. Premier Ford wants jet aircraft to have access to that airport, something the City of Toronto opposes. Transport Canada is involved through a three-party governing agreement. Public sector unions are totally against this idea of privatizing the country's airports. The Union of Canadian Transportation Employees issued a statement yesterday warning against the plan, saying the current model works fine, and claiming that opening airports to more private investment would threaten the safety, security, and affordability of the entire airport transport system. The idea of private ownership of airports was given new life this week after Prime Minister Carney announced the creation of the Build Canada Strong Fund, or the Sovereign Wealth Fund. Airports are seen as a potential asset that could attract private sector investment to Canada. In other news, the Liberals are being accused this week of using their new majority status to shut down an investigation into a possible scandal in healthcare. It's all about a program called Prescribe IT. This program was supposed to put an end to the days of a doctor having to fax a prescription to the local pharmacy. It was launched more than a decade ago and has cost the taxpayers almost $300 million. And yet, despite all of that money being spent, fewer than 5% of doctors ever use the system. So it was shut down. Opposition MPs have been digging into this, wanting to know what went wrong and where the money went. There was supposed to be a public committee meeting about this week, the Health Committee, but the Liberals used their new majority on the committees to turn the cameras off and take everything behind closed doors. Dan Mazier is the health critic for the official opposition.
A $300 million program that was basically wasted by the administrators of it. So we're going to have an audit. We're going to ask the Auditor General to come in and do an investigation. And Liberal Maggie Chee voted to shut down the cameras.
So is the investigation actually going to go forward, or is that still up in the air?
That's it was all in camera, so you can ask.
But in terms of like what we know publicly from the committee,
we requested the motion, so you can ask. The more important question is, why did the cameras get shut off?
The details of what happened with this program are quite stunning. For example, the person in charge has been let go. His name is Michael Green. He was the CEO. The Globe and Mail reported this week he was paid $900,000 in total compensation in the most recent fiscal year, including a more than $200,000 bonus. In that same year, 5 other senior executives earned between $270,000 and $342,000. And it was an organization that for some reason had 24 vice presidents, all earning between $207,000 and $340,000 a year, all collecting bonuses in the tens of thousands of dollars. Michael Barrett is the ethics critic for the official opposition. He said the opposition's job to hold the government to account is getting a lot harder.
Well, certainly it makes it a lot more difficult when they want to shroud in secrecy the attempts that the opposition is taking to bring accountability to bear. And we've seen over the last few years the countless occasions where government officials, Liberal government officials, and Liberal members of Parliament and Liberal cabinet ministers have said there's nothing to see here. And in fact, it's un-Canadian for you to suggest otherwise. But what have we seen? We saw fraud in procurement. We saw fraud in Indigenous procurement. We saw hundreds of millions of dollars, misappropriated. We saw tens of millions of dollars in grift. We've seen criminal charges laid as a result of the work that we've done at the Accountabilities Committee, which include government operations and include public accounts and the Ethics Committee. So it's going to make things, it's going to make them more expensive for Canadians. It's going to make it more difficult for us to be able to bring that accountability to bear.
Another revelation from this story is that despite the government spending almost $300 million on a now defunct attempt to end the faxing of prescriptions, the government owns only a small fraction of the intellectual property. 85% of the intellectual property is held by TELUS Health, the main vendor for that program. I'm Rob Snow. This is Now You Know. This is News Radio.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues on News Radio.
He's my friend on the right side of things. Michael Taube is a columnist with the National Post, Loonie Politics and Troy Media, and he was a speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Hi there, Michael.
Hey, how you doing? Hope all is well with you.
Yeah, hope everything is okay with you as well. Michael, I want to ask you, as a professional speechwriter, for some of your thoughts on the speech from King Charles to the joint session of the U.S. Congress. We have a couple of clips here.
Okay.
It's always Good, they say, to kind of warm up the crowd with a joke or two. Here's one. Let's listen to the King here.
Now, as you may know, when I address my own Parliament at Westminster, we still follow an age-old tradition and take a member of Parliament hostage, holding him or her at Buckingham Palace until I am safely returned. These days, we look after our guests rather well, to the point that they often do not want to leave. I don't know, Mr. Speaker, if there were any volunteers for that role here today.
Okay. And then to wind down the speech, he talked about America and its 250th birthday and the cause of selfless service. Let's listen to this.
America's words carry weight and meaning. as they have since independence. The actions of this great nation matter even more. President Lincoln understood this so well with his reflection in the magisterial Gettysburg Address, that the world may little note what we say, but will never forget what we do. And so to the United States of America, on your 250th birthday, let our two countries rededicate ourselves to each other in the selfless service of our peoples and of all the peoples of the world. God bless the United States, and God bless the United Kingdom.
Okay, so what did you think of the speech, Michael? What did you think of it?
The speech overall was very well done. The royal family has always had an array of brilliant speechwriters. I mean, that has been well known for and documented for a long time. And I think the real key is for King Charles III, who is, shall we say, much newer in the role than his late mother, Queen Elizabeth II. One of the keys that they have is they have to sort of basically figure out what they're supposed to do in terms of fitting it to his character. That is, what does he like to say? How does he like to use humor? How does he like to use certain examples? Because every person is different. Everyone who gives a speech is different. Anyone who writes a speech is different. King Charles III has always had a good sense of humor. I think that has been well known and well documented for a long period of time. And I found that the spots that they used it, including the one that you included and one which I'm going to paraphrase a little bit, but I sort of vaguely remember seeing it, where he said something in the nature of, again, talking about America's 250th birthday, saying something in the nature of 250 years ago, or as we say in the United Kingdom, the next day. It's that humor, that understanding of Britain's presence in the world, the United Kingdom's presence in the world, and the importance, again, of relations between the United States and the United Kingdom, which have obviously been emphasized, which have, much like Canada too, have been a struggle in recent years for a variety of reasons. I thought the speech overall, though, very well written, very well presented. King Charles III did an excellent job on there, and I think he actually made the audience feel very good about themselves and feel very good about UK-US relations, which is what he was really, that's what he wanted to accomplish. And as far as I'm concerned, mission accomplished.
Okay. I guess the challenge would be the relationship right now. A United States that's more looking in and is questioning things like NATO, questioning even Europe and the direction Europe is going in. And how do you think he stick-handled through that?
I think he stick-handled through it very well, much like his mother did. Like Queen Elizabeth II was always very good at that. That was one of her natural talents, is that when she spoke with world leaders, when she spoke about world history, or when she spoke about anything from wartime to peacetime, she handled it with grace, charm, intellect, wit, and so forth. King Charles III, unsurprisingly, has followed that model, not only just because he loved his mother and he admired her, but because that's the right way to handle it, and that's the best way to handle it. So I think he stick-handled it perfectly. And by using levity, which is obviously a tool that some people, when they give speeches, just do not have the ability to do. They really don't. It's not because they're bad people or whatever. They just can't tell a joke and launch it properly. His is deadpan, and that works very well with an audience like that, and they like to see it. And because obviously he's very proper in his mannerisms, his oratorial skills, and so forth, it fits the bill perfectly, much like his late mother. So I think he stick-handled it as well as possible, and possibly even better than some thought he might.
Okay. When we come back with Michael Taube, a little bit about Ontario politics, much closer to home. And Ontario Premier Doug Ford's once huge lead in the Ontario polls is over. What does Michael read into that when we come back? This is News Radio.
There is no question Rob won't get answered.
Now You Know with Rob Snow continues
on News Radio.
With Michael Taube, columnist with the National Post, Loonie Politics, and Troy Media, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper. Let's turn our attention to Ontario politics. The Premier, Doug Ford, once enjoyed a huge lead in the Ontario polls. A double-digit lead, not out of the question. That appears to be over now. This month, we saw two polls, one from Liaison, another from Abacus Data, showing that the once massive PC lead has essentially evaporated, and now it's either a tie or the leaderless Liberal Party of Ontario is actually pulled ahead. Why do you think Ontario voters appear to be turning on Doug Ford?
Well, they're turning on him right now because, unfortunately, his Teflon nature in politics has dissipated. That's part of it. And there's been several reasons why. We've had, discussions about the whole gravy plane controversy, which you and I talked about last week, where he was basically going to buy a used Bombardier jet for about $28.9 million, give or take, and was going to use it for personal purposes. It just looked bad overall based on the fact that we are going through an affordability crisis in this country. People are struggling. Individuals and families are trying to make ends meet, don't know where their next paycheck sometimes is coming from or where their next meal is coming from. It just was a bad look. And even if you prepared for it, there was no communication strategy that could knock it off, and it got eliminated, fairly quickly. But the damage was done. It also didn't help when there was the revelation, although smaller, that during the time that Premier Ford, it said that public workers should get back to work and issue them back to work, he was still working from home, as they found out. And that was not a good revelation. It isn't a good look for any leader. It really isn't. It's not even going to look just for a party leader, let alone a premier, a prime minister, etc. Because, if you give the directions, you're supposed to be following them too, and it looks very, very bad when you don't. So it's problematic that way. So when you put all those things together and any other general frustration that they've had with Mr. Ford when it comes to education, comes to the way he's handled certain things like the green belt and so forth, you put that all together, it gets very messy, and that's how somewhere between a 15 to 20 point lead can dissipate pretty fast to a point, as you said, where he's either in a statistical tie, maybe a point up, but in one poll from Liaison Strategies, 2 points down.
Yeah. He has a lot of runway. I guess that's what's working for him right now. He's still early into this mandate, and the next Ontario election doesn't have to be held until, I think, April of 2030, which for almost 4 years from now. So,
and that's the key. And I was going to end with that. That's exactly it. There are so many years to go. And yeah, sure. Look, if the Liberals are happy right now in Ontario, they have the right to be. No one's disputing that. But at the same time, they have to be realistic, and behind the scenes privately they are. They know they have years left. They know that obviously polls can turn on a dime. They know the voters are fickle. And for all those reasons, yes, right now that is disturbing to look at. But it's very, very different than when, say, Pierre Poilievre lost a 20 to 25 point lead close to the federal election within months of it. This is years. Very different.
Okay. All the best, Michael Taube. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
My pleasure. My pleasure as always. Take care.
Yeah. Columnist with the National Post, Loonie Politics, Troy Media, speechwriter for former Prime Minister Stephen Harper, with us every Thursday. That's Michael Taube. Our Newsday panel, Focus Nova Scotia, coming up right after the latest breaking news on News Radio.
The new Wegovy pill is now available through Weight Watchers. Powerful GLP-1 results in a simple pill at the lowest price available. And with Weight Watchers, you can get doctor support and personalized nutrition programs. See if you qualify at weightwatchers.com. Ad not reviewed or approved by Novo Nordisk.
You have questions.
Now You Know with Rob Snow has the answers
on News Radio.
It's time for our Thursday Newsday panel. That means it's time for Focus Nova Scotia as we welcome back Rob Batherson, Vice President for Atlantic Canada at Enterprise Canada, past President, Conservative Party of Canada. Welcome back, Rob Batherson.
Great to be back.
And Rick Perkins is a former Conservative MP. He represented the riding of South Shore St. Margaret's. And welcome to you, Mr. Perkins. It's great to hear from you today.
Great to be here. Thanks for inviting me.
Premier Tim Houston has an opinion piece in the Financial Post where he writes, Nova Scotia had bans on entire industries, including uranium exploration and hydraulic fracturing for natural gas. These bans sent a message to companies that Nova Scotia was not a place they could do business. He goes on to tout that the offshore fields potentially hold 148 trillion cubic feet of natural gas, 49 billion barrels of oil, and onshore there could be 7 trillion cubic feet of recoverable natural gas. We know that Premier Houston has been making big pitches for major investments in natural resources. But Rob Batherson, how open do you think Nova Scotians are to these potential developments?
Well, I think we got some great news today that shows that Premier Houston's efforts are paying off. Inceptio Oil and Gas, which is led by a Nova Scotian, James Eden, with international oil and gas experience, was the successful bidder, $210 million on 2 offshore parcels, one worth $10 million, the other worth $200 million. For gas exploration. So that's great news, and hopefully the first of many net new offshore oil and gas projects coming into Nova Scotia. Your listeners have heard me talk about the excitement around the Equinor, Bay du Nord announcement in Newfoundland, Labrador last month. They're back in oil and gas, and now Nova Scotia is back in oil and gas too.
Okay. Rick Perkins, what's your sense of it? Are Nova Scotians supportive of developing natural resources in a big way?
I believe so. I think the ban on some of these things happened at a very political time during the McNeil government and a Conservative government way back when in New Brunswick. And if you look at it, the potential is huge. Premier Houston is fond of saying, and I agree with him, that historically over the last 15 years, we've liked to put the no in Nova Scotia. And the result of that is one of the poorest economies in North America. We have enormous natural resources, and the 7 trillion cubic feet of developable gas onshore is a small amount of what we suspect is there. It could be as high as 68 to 80 trillion cubic feet. So give you an idea, the 7 trillion that Premier Houston refers to is about 80 years worth of all the energy for the whole province. But the potential is up to about 3,000 years worth of energy. So he is right when he says that we should be an energy superpower in this province, exporting around the world.
Okay. Mr. Perkins, I want to ask you about something else, and I'm sure Rob Batherson will have some thoughts on this. I've taken some calls from people during my open line segments about this project in Canso. The federal government is going to invest $20 million a year for the next 10 years, $200 million to develop a spaceport in Canso. What do you think of that? Do you think Canso is going to become a hotbed of space launches? What's your sense of what's going on here with this?
Well, first of all, we are in and have been in for many decades the space business in Canada. We played an important role on the shuttles, on the space station, and now in the Artemis rocket around the moon. And we should continue to do that at a very high level. But this particular incident looks like a bailout of perhaps a genuinely decent idea that doesn't seem to be going anywhere. It's existed for almost a decade and has had no launches. It's essentially a gravel road into a parking lot. It has no customers. It has no rockets. It has no contracts. Yet the federal government has put this in, and what's happened is the share price has gone up dramatically. So the owners, within days of that being announced, cashed in $3 million worth of shares. They were so confident in the future of their company that they cashed out a chunk of their shares in order to take some of that money and run. And of course, we have a bad history in this province of funding fantastical types of ideas that end up going nowhere and costing the taxpayer a lot. This looks like it may be another one of them. Look, should we have a spaceport somewhere in Canada? Perhaps. But this one doesn't seem to have any functioning business case whatsoever.
Okay. Well, I mean, David McGinty was there, just weeks ago. He's the Minister of National Defense, Rob Batherson. I mean, you're talking about a $200 million investment. The federal government seems to see something in it. What do you think?
I don't know enough about the particulars of this particular project. What I do know is anytime you have governments making significant investments in projects, there has to be a great deal of scrutiny as to whether it makes sense for the taxpayers to be involved. What is the return on that investment? And my general concern, again, without getting to the specifics around this project, is we've seen with the spring economic update and the $25 billion debt fund that Mark Carney announced, is that governments are getting involved in all sorts of projects. And now that they have their majority, what scrutiny are we going to be able to apply? When Rick Perkins was in Parliament, he was able, along with the Conservatives, to expose the Green Slush Fund and the scandal and the misappropriation of funds, and essentially having the board of the Green Slush Fund allocate money for themselves. And so my concern generally, again, without getting into the specifics around the Canso project, is when you've got hundreds of millions of taxpayers' dollars, and now with this $25 billion debt fund, we're going to risk perhaps billions of taxpayers' dollars without any accountability. It's going to be all in secret. You've seen the ethics committee. The Carney government is shutting that committee down and moving proceedings in camera. So I am concerned when governments are dumping billions of dollars into the economy, whether it makes sense. If it makes sense, let the private sector do it.
Okay, we'll be right back with more. I do want to ask our panelists about this idea of the Sovereign Wealth Fund. We have a regional development agency for Atlantic Canada, the Atlantic Canada Opportunities Agencies, but also what was in that spring economic update for Nova Scotia. When we come back, this is News Radio.
No question goes unasked or unanswered.
Now you know with Rob Snow returns on News Radio.
It's Focus Nova Scotia today. Rob Batherson's here from Enterprise Canada, along with former Conservative MP Rick Perkins. So it was Spring Economic Update Day this week. What's in there for Nova Scotia, where every MP is a Liberal? What's in there? Rick, what's your reading of it?
Well, more debt to start with in the credit card budget. So this Liberal government's managed to actually do something we didn't think was possible, which is double the deficit that Justin Trudeau did. And Justin Trudeau was hardly a tightwad. So we're talking about moving a deficit from $31 billion to $65 billion. Now, what does that mean? Well, it's a huge amount of money for folks. And what it means that over the next 5 years, that all the debt that they plan to accumulate is going to mean that every year we're going to be spending $80 billion in interest payments alone. So you got your credit card, and all you can do is afford the minimum payment, which is the interest payments. That's going to be $80 billion. That's more than we spend on healthcare. It's crazy. So they will claim that, there's $1 billion in there over 5 years for what are called small craft harbors. Those are the commercial wharfs that we have in Nova Scotia and across the country. There's 1,000 of them across all three oceans in the freshwaters that are commercial wharfs. Now, it's a small amount. For 10 years, the Fisheries Committee has been calling for a doubling of the basic funding. There's only $90 million in the basic funding. This is sort of supplementary funding. It's short-term, allows to repair a few boards here and there. But to give you some idea of scale, my community, the South Shore of Nova Scotia and the Western Shore of Nova Scotia, two of the richest commercial fishing grounds in the world, they require, according to DFO, almost $800 million alone to bring the wharfs back up to safety. So this is nothing, and it's not going to cause a great deal of improvement to our situation, as no matter what the Liberals claim. Of course, we've got the issues around this Sovereign Wealth Fund, which is really an admission of failure as far as I can see. They've been trying to get major projects built and haven't been able to get anyone to bite. They've got over 275 projects that have gone before their new bureaucracy, and none of them have been approved because there's no private sector financing. So they're going to borrow money, put it in a fund, and hope that somebody will match it to try and build things. I mean, it's going to be as successful as...
well, the thing is, we have lots of funds. You know, we have green technology funds. We have the Indigenous Loan Program. We have the Infrastructure Bank. And we have regional development agencies. There's one for Western Canada, there's one for Southern Ontario, and there's one for Atlantic Canada, ACOA. Rob, what do you think about this? Another fund, Rob Batherson.
Well, calling it a sovereign wealth fund, I got to apologize in advance to Rick Perkins and all my friends out there, but calling it a sovereign wealth fund is like calling the Toronto Maple Leafs a Stanley Cup contender. It is a big debt fund, a big debt fund, and it mortgages the future of not only our kids but our grandkids. And so they're going to dump $25 billion of borrowed money. Who decides how it's going to get doled out? What are the interest charges on that $25 billion of new debt? And Rob, you're right. We have no shortage of funds that are out there to dole out dollars to businesses. And again, as I said in the previous segment, we need to focus on projects that are driven by the private sector. In this very uncertain world where we're doing everything, and we should be doing everything that we can to Trump-proof our economy, we need to support the private sector to spend private sector dollars. Turn that $1 trillion of lost investment under the first decade of the Liberals and get our economy going. A big debt fund won't solve that.
So let me ask you this then, as a follow-up, because the transport minister, Mr. McKinnon, was asked this week, are you going to privatize the airports? In the past, people might say no, but now he's saying, well, we're looking into it as part of this sovereign wealth fund. What if the Stanfield Airport in Halifax was sold to a private company? What would you think of something like that, Rob Batherson?
Well, I'd want any process around looking at our airport assets to be transparent, put all the numbers out there, and make sure that we're focused on what will deliver affordable aviation. It's no good to privatize an airport and then let the new operator come in and jack up fees even higher. The other thing is you have to look at the valuation, and Rick would know this better than me with his private sector background, is that the valuation of Toronto Pearson would be much larger than Halifax Stanfield. And so I am concerned, particularly where you have our Prime Minister who has conflicts up the wazoo. Somebody joked online, are we going to see, is this the beginning of Brookfield International Airport in Toronto? So I'm really concerned about how the Liberals kind of slip this through the back door and
well, let's hear from Rick. Rick, what do you think of this idea of privatizing the airports?
Well, look, as I served in the official opposition and I was the industry critic, so in that capacity I met with a lot of the airports and the airport association. Our airports do have challenges, there's no question. They've got limits on the current structure on capital, but Rob is absolutely right. Right off the bat right now, air travel is incredibly expensive, and a big part of that is the fees on every ticket. Well, remember a few years ago where I think it was WestJet actually said, well, for the next few weeks, we'll actually have a $1 ticket for domestic flight for certain routes in Canada. And it still cost $180 or something like that for taxes. And some of that is the airport fees charged to both the airlines and to the individual tickets. So I think we should be open to looking at ways we can improve the airports, improve service, improve the ability to finance them, but in ways that reduce the costs for air travelers. And if we can get a more competitive environment, then we should have that discussion. I don't think we would rule out alternative structures and models off the bat, but we'd like to see what the government's proposing in a mini budget. They had one or two throwaway lines on it, and it seems from the transport minister's perspective, it may have even been a surprise to him because he didn't seem to know what to say.
Okay, we'll be right back. We'll be right back. This is News Radio.
Critical thinking is not dead.
Now you know with Rob Snow.
Returns on News Radio.
So there's not a lot of time here. Rick Perkins is here, former Conservative MP. From Enterprise Canada, Rob Batherson. I've just been fascinated by this Mercy River wind farm project because it's getting $353 million in government financing. This is for 33 wind turbines for 200 temporary construction jobs. Rick Perkins, I mean, you were asking questions about this. What questions remain for you about that project?
Well, there's quite a few. I met with the proponents when I was a member of Parliament. Their main concern at the time when they met with me was not actually seeking my support, but worrying that the infrastructure bank would disappear if we had gotten elected government, which was our promise, and what would happen to their loan. I told them, well, I don't think they needed the loan. They could get private sector money to finance this. And they said, well, they could get cheaper money from the infrastructure bank. So I think one of the things that came out, because the Transport Committee, the House of Commons, just went through a few meetings with the proponents and the minister, was that, shocking to me, is that this loan is so favorable. Of course, it's a board of Liberals, a board of management of Liberals, all Liberal insiders, former leaders of provincial parties, and all connected to federal MPs. They don't have to pay anything back on this loan until they're cash flow positive. So if the thing doesn't work, they don't pay it back.
Wow.
It's a crazy.
I mean, it's $353 million in public financing, $206 million from the infrastructure bank, $25 million from Natural Resources Canada, clean technology credit, $122 million. As Rick said, many of the proponents very close ties to the Nova Scotia and federal Liberal parties. Rob, what do you think in a minute or less?
We're just getting warmed up. As I mentioned in the previous segment, I am really concerned with all of these potential deals, with all the hundreds of millions, the billions of taxpayers' dollars that Mark Carney and the Liberals are going to be running out the door without any scrutiny, without any oversight. Wow, do we miss Rick Perkins in Parliament keeping an eye on these Liberals?
Yeah, prescribe IT. Keep an eye on that one. That's one to watch, too. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye. Appreciate the time. Yeah, Rick Perkins is a former Conservative MP, South Shore, St. Margaret's. Rob Batherson from Enterprise Canada, Vice President for Atlantic Canada, past President of the Conservative Party of Canada. Talkback coming up next on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
Welcome to Talkback. It's 2 hours of debate and discussion on the big issues of the day. Today, we want your take on some stories in the news cycle. First up, a smoke-free generation. What do you think about this idea that cigarette sales be banned for life for anyone born after a certain date? The UK is doing this, banning the sale of all tobacco products on or after, for anyone born on or after January 1st of 2009. So anyone born on that day or after that day, they will never, ever be able to buy cigarettes, ever. For the rest of their lives, ever, will not be able to buy cigarettes. What do you think about that? 1-833-668-2577 is our call-in line. Line's available right now. The Carney government says it's looking into it. It hasn't committed to bringing a bill forward, but it says they're looking into it. I mean, think about this. Someone born January 1st of 2009 right now would be 17 years old as of today, and that 17-year-old would never be allowed to buy cigarettes ever for the rest of their lives. This is coming into effect in the UK New Year's Day 2027. Health officials in the UK are calling it the most significant health reform in generations. They say most people start smoking before they turn 18 years old, And so if you can prevent people in their teens from ever getting hooked on cigarettes, that's the way to go. And they're adamant that one way to do that is to prevent them from ever being allowed to buy cigarettes in the first place. And they say it's going to save tens of thousands of lives. Smoking kills 80,000 people a year in the UK. Smoking-related illnesses cost the UK healthcare system tens of billions of dollars a year. So the calls are on. Canada should do the same thing, people say. What do you say? Should Canada do the same thing? What do you think about this idea? If you're under the age of 18, you can't buy cigarettes ever for the rest of your life. Not only when you turn 18, but when you turn 80. It doesn't outlaw smoking cigarettes, but anyone under the age of 18 wouldn't be able to buy them, at least legally. For life? Should Canada ban the sale of cigarettes for life? If they were born on January 1st of 2009 or after that, they'd never be allowed to buy cigarettes for the rest of their life when they turn 18, 48, 88. Against the law. Against the law. Should we do the same thing here? In this country, 50,000 people die every year from smoking-related illnesses. Smoking costs our healthcare system more than $30 billion a year. That's the estimate. And public health advocates are encouraging our government to follow the lead of the UK, pass a similar law. What is your opinion? Would you say it's a great idea? It's a great idea? Or no, once someone turns 18, they're a grown-up, they should be allowed to make grown-up decisions about their own lives. What do you think? 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. Here's another one. The Liberal government in Ottawa is exploring the privatization of our airports. What do you think about that idea? Having private investors owning Canadian airports, say a big pension plan, a major institutional investor. This has been part of the Ottawa rumor mill for quite some time, that the Liberal government was thinking about doing something like this. And now that the Prime Minister, Mark Carney, has announced his sovereign wealth fund as a way to attract investment into Canada, this is apparently one of the things they're thinking about. You know how it works right now. We have airport authorities in Canada. They're basically not-for-profit corporations. The federal government owns the land. The airport authority runs the airport. The Toronto Airport Authority, the Ottawa Airport Authority, the Calgary Airport Authority, Halifax International Airport Authority. The Liberal government in Ottawa seems to be saying the airport needs an infusion of capital and it needs some private sector know-how. Now think about your own recent trips through the airport. You think it would be better if it was owned by a private for-profit company that put in some money and maybe some private sector innovation? I mean, the government would still regulate air travel. That wouldn't go away. Air traffic control, security at the airport, the government would still be involved in that. But the asset itself, running the daily operations of the airport, would be a for-profit venture. Investors would put money into the airport, you would think, and hope for a return on their investment. What do you think of the idea? You know, if you travel through the Halifax Airport or the Calgary Airport or the Pearson Airport, don't get me started, or any other airport for that matter. What would you think if it was run by a private corporation instead of the local airport authority? Do you think your experience at the airport would improve? Would it get worse? Let me know what you think about that. Reporters put that to the Minister of Transport yesterday, and he said, yeah, that's something we're thinking about. Privatizing airports, 1-833-668-2577. And if you will let me, one more thing. This has kind of been percolating for about a week. Micro-looting. I'd love your take on this. Micro-looting. Kind of a new term for me, micro-looting. It refers to people who shoplift from stores as a way to stick it to the man. In the last week or so, a pair of left-wing commentators made news because they said on a podcast that they didn't feel bad about people taking items from grocery stores, for example, because grocery stores are owned by big corporations. They're owned by billionaires, and they won't miss it. They don't need the money. The rich don't pay by the rules, so why should we? It was actually the title of the podcast episode. One of the people on the podcast is a Canadian from Toronto who writes for The New Yorker, told a story about how she was buying some items for a friend at Whole Foods, forgot to buy lemons, didn't want to line up at the checkout again, so she went and grabbed some lemons and walked out of the store without paying for them, and she said she didn't feel guilty at all. Whole Foods is making a lot of money. It builds these sort of small thefts into the business model anyway, so they won't miss it. People have been shoplifting items, putting videos on social media, calling it a form of political protest or protesting against wealth inequality. Is it okay to take a few lemons from Whole Foods? Go to the self-checkout, not scan all the items? There are videos on social media of people saying things like, "This is my way of fighting against a corrupt system." What do you think? What do you think? Would you cheer those people on? Go for it, stick it to the man. Or would you say, no, stealing is stealing. Stealing is stealing, and stealing is always wrong. Comment on any of these stories, please. Comment on all three if you want. We have 2 hours together. Let's kick things around. At 1-833-668-2577. This is Talkback on News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Any number of stories there you can comment on. The Canadian government potentially following the lead of the UK government, banning anyone under the age of 18 from buying cigarettes for the rest of their lives. What do you think about an idea like that? Privatizing airports is in the news. And people actually defending shoplifting from big box stores because big box stores are owned by big corporations and billionaires. Oh, they won't miss the money. It's a form of political protest. I mean, what do you think about that? Normalizing stealing. What? I don't know. I'd love your take on that one. 1-833-668-2577. Con is in Calgary. Hello, Con.
Hi, how are you?
Yeah, very good. How are you?
I'm doing great.
That's great.
And then I would like to give my opinion about the smoking part of it because
yes,
I believe that's a great idea because that would be fighting the problem at the source. You know, the government doesn't make the smokes, so they shouldn't. We taxpayers shouldn't be the one to pay for all the health problem that comes out of it. So if banning anybody from buying smoke at the age of 18 for life, that would be great. They can get the smoke anywhere else they want, but if themselves they cannot pay for it, that will lead to people stop spending so much money on this smoke. Myself, I smoke once in a while. I never liked it, but I do it just in the fly or just to have 5-minute break throughout my work shift, and that's pretty much it. So I do support that idea if the government can follow the lead from the UK there.
Okay, we're talking about the rest of their lives. So, like, let's say, okay, you're as 17 years old. I'm just playing devil's advocate. I'm not saying I disagree with you. 17 years old, okay, can't buy smokes. But here would be the flip side. What about a 30-year-old? What about a 30-year-old? Should they not have the freedom to make their own decisions, even if they're bad decisions?
If you don't smoke at 17, you're not going to miss it when you're 30. You know? It's just like you can smoke from 17 to 20 and quit for the rest of your life. So what if you don't start at all? You're not going to miss it. Okay. You're not going to miss it.
So you would support it. You would support it.
Yeah. It's a great idea. It's a great idea. And
great
I
idea.
Think it's
okay.
Work.
All right. You think it's going to work? Okay. And that they should do it. They're thinking about it, is what they say. They're thinking about it. Let's go to Rob. Is up next. Hi, Rob.
How you doing?
Yeah, very good, Rob. What's your opinion, Rob?
I've been a smoker for over 25 years. I regret the day that I ever started smoking. There is other countries, from my understanding, like New Zealand. I don't know for sure if it's Australia as well, that have banned like burning products. So they're big into the market of e-cigarettes and vapes and those kinds of things. There's not a huge outcry about it. It's been going on for a number of years in those countries. And personally, even for myself, I wish they would just ban it altogether. I really, really do wish, but there's the flip side to that. And again, playing the devil's advocate is, are you taking people's rights away to make their choices? Well, it's costing the economy, like you said, $34 billion a year, whatever the number was.
Yeah, $32 billion. Yeah, for smoking-related illnesses for the entirety of the Canadian healthcare system. Yeah.
Right. So you're not just affecting yourself; you're affecting the entire economy. I have 3 boys at home. We've had discussions about vapes and other things. The other problem with that is that you're going to see those numbers go up. When do you start banning, alcohol? When, you know what I mean? Where does it stop? But at the same time, we know the serious effects of cigarettes. We know that there is going to be serious effects from vaping. To me, as a smoker, I wish I didn't have access to them because I've found it very, very hard to stop over the number of years that I've smoked. And it's, it is an epidemic thing to me personally in myself that I just can't quit because I have the access to them.
Yeah. This is interesting, though. You would support just banning tobacco-related products altogether. Take it all away.
I 100%. And I'm not maybe, with the nicotine replacement pouches, those kinds of things, but again, they've done it in other countries. I'm fairly certain it's New Zealand and Australia both have any product that burns, whether it's a cigar, cigarette, cigarillos, those kinds of things, they've banned them outright as far as I understand.
Okay. Thank you. Yeah, that's one of the stories in the mix. The Canadian government is being encouraged by public health officials. Please follow the lead of the UK government. Ban for life. Anyone under the age of 18 from buying cigarettes. So that's 17-year-old. Right now, they would never be able to buy cigarettes ever. Ever. What do you think of that? One of many stories in the news cycle these days. We'd like your thoughts on them, please. 1-833-668-2577. It's News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Asking about stories in the news cycle today. Banning cigarettes for life. For young people, can't buy cigarettes ever for the rest of your life. Privatizing airports, stealing from big box stores as a form of political protest. Keith in Calgary. Hello, Keith. Good to hear from you, Keith.
Morning.
Yeah,
if you can afford me the time, I'd like to touch on a couple of your topics.
Yeah, sure.
So as far as the smoking goes, as an ex-smoker myself, I can't say it's a terrible idea. And on the flip side, I find it rather hysterical that a government that hands out hard drugs to people on the street has any actual regard or concern for our health. I just find that ridiculous in contrast. But
interesting point.
As far as it goes, I feel like I can't argue an upside for smoking. Period. I mean, I really can't. I can't say that it's a measure that I would object to myself. I just, like I said, find it enormously hypocritical that on one side they're perfectly fine with hard drugs handed out, and on the other side they have a problem with cigarettes. It's just, I don't know, somehow comical to me.
All right.
That being said, the idea of privatizing things like airports sounds an awful lot like, selling off Canada and making Brookfield our landlords. And I can't see an upside to that at all, not in any way, shape, form, or fashion. That to me just sounds like a disaster of a policy. I can't argue the case for it working.
They're an attractive investment. They are an attractive investment for international investors, institutional investors. There are many large.
What do I care if an international company makes money?
Well, what if it improved the experience at the airport? What if it lowered costs?
I can't see that being
to
the
use
case.
the
Why would
airport?
it? Their goal is going to be to profiteer for the shareholder, not make it a benefit. So if it translates into higher costs for the consumer, there's no advantage. And if that was the case, then why wouldn't the government, run it at a profit for themselves and take some of the burden off of some of the other things for the rest of us?
Okay. All right. So you're against it. The idea.
100%.
It looks like they're going to do it. I think they're going to do it.
It's an absolutely disastrous idea. It can't go well. I mean, if the Conservatives were to propose such a problem, such a scenario, they would be lighting fires in the streets over it. But Carney can get away with anything apparently, as long as it enriches himself in Brookfield. But that's my personal cynical opinion. So you can take that for what it is.
All right. Okay. Cynicism is bad for your health, sir. Be skeptical, okay? But try to avoid cynicism. Skeptical always. Try not to be a cynic, though. 1-833-668-2577, 1-833-668-2577. Should the Canadian government follow the lead of the UK government and ban for life anyone under the age of 18 from buying smokes? Carney government looking at privatizing the airports. Your thoughts on that? And we have progressives saying it's okay to steal items from big box stores, Whole Foods, Walmart, Costco. They're owned by big corporations, they say. They're owned by billionaires. They're not going to miss it. It's a form of political protest. What do you think about that? Do you cheer those people on? The micro looters? Or do you think, no. It's stealing and it's wrong. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Getting your opinions on stories in the news cycle today. Right back to our phone calls. Lee in Calgary. Thanks for calling, Lee. You're up next.
Good morning, Rob.
Hi, Lee.
Here's another example of the government spending time and resources on a subject that will be absolutely impossible to regulate. Like, as far as the tobacco use goes. A young person, you tell them not to do something, they're probably going to do it, right? Already, organically, tobacco use is down from past decades, right? Like through the 80s, the 90s, and so on. Tobacco use is significantly down. Already,
it is, yes.
Right now,
yes,
you force it on somebody. Now you force it on somebody. Who's going to stop that retailer who's trying to pay his bills from selling a carton of cigarettes to someone that's 26 years old in 10 years? Right? It's going to be impossible to regulate. We might as well say anybody who doesn't drive after a certain day is not going to be allowed to get a license because it will save lives. Because car accidents, there's lots of life loss there too. And the one thing people forget is the tobacco industry is one of the highest tax industries out there. If those tax revenues were going towards our health care, then maybe it would supplement some of those health costs from people who are actually dying of smoke-related diseases, right?
Okay.
I just
you think it would be difficult to enforce? This is one of the criticisms. Young people will find a way around it, just the same way young people are finding a way around a myriad of other things that are banned right now, whether it's having somebody older go into the liquor store or whatever,
Yeah.
Could contribute. This is one of the other concerns. It could contribute to a rise in what I would call the black market for tobacco.
Yep.
Something like that, right? Yeah.
And not only that, if they were to say something like, we're going to raise the age to 21 or even 25, a person could probably get behind that. But a lifetime ban,
lifetime ban.
That's something else altogether, right? Just because they were born after a certain date, that to me just, and on that, to get away from that subject for 2 seconds, the micro theft. You paint any brush you want that you're sticking it to the man, it's still theft and it's still illegal. And all it does is push the cost back to the consumer in a roundabout way. The more stuff they lose, the more they charge for stuff. So they're not really doing anything but mucking it up and making it worse for the consumer at the end of the day.
Yeah, I agree with you. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. And what does it say about where we are just morally and ethically right now when we have people saying it's okay to steal as long as you're just only stealing from big companies? Thank you for your call, Lee. Yeah, I think we're of like mind. Matthew up next. Matthew. Hello, Matthew.
Hello, Matthew. Hey, Rob. Happy Thursday.
Yeah, same to you, Matthew. Your opinions, please.
Yeah. Oh, about the smoking, I say, yeah, completely ban all tobacco products. I completely disagree with the sentiment that people should have the freedom to do themselves harm. It's human nature. We're not born with perfect minds or perfect genetics, and large companies capitalize on that. They know we're addicted to things. I'll go even this far, Rob. I'll say ban sugar-loaded cereals for kids. It's the same type of mindset. These billionaires, they don't care what they sell you as long as they're making money. If it kills you, if it makes you dumb, if it's not nutritious, if it's bad for you, what do they care?
Okay, but where do you stop with that? Where would you stop with that? Should alcohol be banned? Alcohol is terrible for you. Alcohol causes all kinds of health problems. It breaks up families and destroys lives. Should we ban it? What about gambling? Gambling's not great either. That's a vice. Should we just outlaw gambling as well? Or?
Yeah, I do agree, but I think so. But here's the thing, though. A lot of people that would disagree with me, they jump on this slippery slope thing, and which I completely disagree with. You can have more restrictions to try to help people to stop them from doing stupid things. I don't think that schools should be able to sell kids pops and chips. I don't believe that, sugary foods should be sold to kids either. And we can still have so many other freedoms. It's an American thing, Rob. I think it's an American thing. I think when you travel around the world, I lived outside of Canada for a decade. I see different cultures, how they navigate these things. Yeah, right. It's an American thing to think that once you take away one little quote-unquote freedom, like the freedom to hurt yourself, that all of a sudden you're going to live in 1984. And I don't buy that. I don't buy that argument whatsoever, the slippery slope argument. I don't buy it.
Okay, Matthew. Thank you. Let's take one more. First-time caller from Kitchener for the first time today, Laura. Hi, Laura. Hi. Oh, that's too bad. I'll tell you what, why don't we stop here then, okay, instead of taking another call. 1-833-668-2577. I think we have, how many lines available there? 3 now, I think. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, 3. 1-833-668-2577. This seems to be a hot one today. These calls from public health officials, anti-smoking advocates, follow the lead of the UK. A ban for life anyone under the age of 18. That's 17-year-old right now in your life. Never, ever would they be able to buy cigarettes at all, forever and ever and ever, for the rest of their natural-born lives. What do you think of that? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yeah, so one of the stories in the news cycle is this idea. Think of someone 17 years old in Canada, the government passing a law saying, okay, 17-year-old, you're not allowed to buy smokes now, and you're never going to be allowed to buy cigarettes ever for the rest of your life. For the rest of your life, you will never be allowed to buy cigarettes as a public health reform. What do you think about that idea? That's a big talker today here on Talkback. Donna is in Halifax. Thanks for calling, Donna.
Oh, hi. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
There was a caller on earlier that said tobacco use was down. Yeah, tobacco use might be down, but drug use is up. And we're spending billions looking after people that become drug addicts and whatnot. And the worst thing that ever happened, and I said it was going to happen and get out of control, was when Justin Trudeau, to get voted in, he legalized marijuana. And look at all the, I don't remember seeing all these tent cities and all these drug addicts and whatnot, but as far as cigarettes, if they get rid of cigarettes, I mean, I don't smoke. I've never smoked. I've never vaped. I've never taken a drug or a legal drug or any of that stuff. But if people can't smoke a cigarette, they're going to all turn to drugs. So it's going to be one or the other.
I don't know about that. I don't know. If people can't smoke cigarettes, I don't think they're going to start, snorting cocaine and shooting heroin or taking fentanyl. I mean, come on, Donna, let's get real.
Well, look at the streets out there. Have you ever seen so many homeless people and people overdosing?
Well, no, I mean that's terrible. What has happened there? And that's the combination of many things. That's a failing mental health care system. It's a failure on the affordable housing front, and it's a result of the opioid crisis. I don't think it's a result of people, I don't think legalizing marijuana had much to do with it. There were already 4.5 million Canadians who were breaking the law when marijuana was prohibited. So I don't think a lot of people suddenly...
I remember the drinking age and smoking or whatever was 21. But then they lowered it. Is it 18 now or 19 or whatever? Maybe if they even raise the age that you can't drink, smoke, do whatever until you're 21, then people would be a little more mature and say, nah, I don't think I want a cigarette or whatever. But I don't know. I mean, there's just car accidents all the time anyway, but I just think that drug use will go up. And
you think drug use will go up? Okay.
The thing about the people robbing from the stores, I think it's disgusting. Yes. They're thieves and they're criminals. There's no excuse. If somebody steals a loaf of bread or something like that to feed their family, I have a little more sympathy. But they're stealing jewelry, liquor, and things like that. I mean, it's ridiculous. It's out of control.
Gotcha.
Every day.
All right, Donna. Thank you. We've been generous with the time, but we'll have to move along. Dave in Calgary up next. Hello, Dave.
Hey, Rob. I'd like to touch on the Australia and New Zealand thing that the guy was talking about earlier. Australia hasn't banned cigarettes at all, but they have jacked up the prices. They're about $50 Australian for a single pack.
Holy cow.
The dollar's almost at parity, so it's about $49 Canadian for a pack of cigarettes in Australia.
Oh, my gosh.
Has opened up the black market like crazy.
I bet.
New Zealand, on the other hand, they banned cigarettes for, 18 in 2022. And it took about a year and a half for them to completely repeal it because of the black market and because they lost so much tax funding.
Oh, really?
So they've already gotten rid of it.
I see. I was not aware of that. Okay. All right. You know more about it than I do.
You look at cigarettes in Canada, even they're $20 a pack on average. And the black market here is thriving because cigarettes are $4 a pack on the black market.
Right.
And you just go on the internet and they ship them to your door.
Oh, really? Okay, I didn't know that either. So you think this would just backfire? Wouldn't be effective? Hard to enforce? You'd have a thriving black market.
Absolutely, and you probably don't want your money going to the people that run those black markets.
Okay, all right, very interesting. Thank you for the information, Dave. Very good to know. Peter up next on Talkback. Hello, Peter.
Hello.
Hi, Peter. Yeah, good to hear from you, Peter. Go ahead.
Thank you. Thanks for taking my call. I think banning it is a silly idea. It's not right. People should be able to make their own. I started smoking when I was 13, quit when I was 33, and have never regretted quitting. It was a choice I made to quit. I'm 74 now. And all these years, I've not missed it one bit. But it was a choice that I made to quit. What I do think, though, is there are chemicals deliberately put into cigarettes that should not be there. Those should be banned. And
what do these chemicals do? What do you mean? Because they're,
well,
in
they
any cigarette, there's hundreds of chemicals, right? There's hundreds of chemicals.
I know.
In a cigarette, yeah.
Cigarette should be just tobacco and paper with no chemicals added.
All right.
That's my thoughts.
Okay.
Because some of those chemicals will continue the addiction, and that should be stopped. And the manufacturers know what they're doing there. And it's going to take some investigation. I don't have.
But you would be opposed. You would be opposed to saying to that 17-year-old right now in Canada, you'll never be allowed to buy cigarettes for the rest of your life. You would be opposed to that.
Absolutely opposed. That is
absolutely.
That's just plain wrong.
Just plain wrong. Okay, interesting.
Choice.
Thank you. Personal choice. 1-833-668-2577. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
To Guelph we go. Mike, you're on the line on Talkback. Hi, Mike.
Yes, good day, and how are you?
Very good, Mike. Thanks. What's your opinion?
Okay, well, I can see where they want to ban the smoking, because smoking takes the most of the health care, which is the reason why they brought in gambling and stopped you from smoking in public, because the smoking takes the most of money out of the health care and the gambling takes the rest, right? But if they stop you from smoking, then that's more control. So what good is that? You know what I mean? They're just trying to control you. Maybe if
I don't know if it's. I mean, that's your reading of it. It's about more control. Okay, I can appreciate that point of view. What they're saying is, from a public health point of view, if people get to the age of 18, they've never smoked, it's quite likely they're never going to smoke. So if we want to prevent, millions of Canadian young people from ever becoming smokers in the first place, the best way to do that is not allow them to buy cigarettes in the first place, and keep that ban in place for the rest of their lives.
So whatever happens to the choice is it's a free country. But no, they want you not. They're telling you you can no longer smoke. No, that's wrong, Rob, and you know it is. They're trying to control you. And as far as people stealing from grocery stores and all that, you know what? They're a bunch of idiots, because they're not stealing from the grocery store. They're stealing from you. They're stealing from me. And they're stupid enough they don't even know they're stealing from themselves, because the insurance has to make up. My insurance goes up every month.
Yeah.
Okay, that's stupid. The government wants to sell the airport. Why can't they run it properly and make money? Like, this country's going in the wrong direction.
Well, I'm telling you, I'm just finding it curious, because this has been floating around Ottawa for like a year now, about revitalizing the airport, infusing it with private capital, all of these words. And now they have this sovereign wealth fund, and they put it to the transport minister yesterday. Are you going to privatize the airports? And he did not rule it out. I mean, they're seriously looking at that idea.
Yeah, well, you know what I mean? Everything is selling out the country. Big dollars get to take over. Small guys get to you just get to follow the leader. You know what I mean? This country is going in all the wrong directions, sir, and that's a totally
but
fact,
I mean, if you
okay?
go through, you're in Guelph. I mean, if you go through Pearson, does that look like a well-oiled machine, the Pearson Airport? Or could a private company maybe run that airport better than the Toronto Airport Authority can manage to run that airport? It's like a gong show trying to get through that airport sometimes.
Yeah, I know, but if they would get some of the red tape out of the way, they could probably run it really good. And as far as the tobacco goes and all that, if the healthcare is suffering, then go to the reserves and take the money that is being spent over there. Tell them they got to start paying taxes towards the healthcare. You know what I mean?
Mike.
Step in for that.
I got you, Mike. Thank you. Wow, there is a divergence of opinion on this idea, though, on having Canada. The government in Ottawa says, well, we're looking into it. It's very interesting what they're doing in the UK. We'll look into that. We'll consider that. Banning for life anyone under the age of 18 from buying cigarettes. the rest of their lives. 1-833-668-2577. That was a very busy first hour. Let's keep it going in hour number 2 of Talkback here on News Radio.
It's time to talk back.
On Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Call now.
And have your say.
1-833-668-2577.
We've just been kicking around some stuff that's in the news cycle, like the Canadian government potentially following the lead of the UK government, banning for life anyone under the age of 18 from buying cigarettes. Or the Carney Liberals saying they're looking at privatizing Canada's airports. Is that a good idea? Would it improve your experience at the airport? If it was owned by a private for-profit company instead of the local airport authority. And we have progressives saying it's okay to steal from big box stores. They're owned by big corporations. They're owned by billionaires. They won't miss the money. It's a form of political protest. You know, I'm going to stick it to the man. Steal a few tomatoes, maybe a few apples here and there. What do you think about that? You see videos out there on social media from time to time. Oh, sticking it to Jeff Bezos, sticking it to Walmart, sticking it to Loblaws. Think about that. My opinion is stealing is always wrong. That's my opinion. I'd like to know yours. 1-833-668-2577. Very busy in the first hour. Let's see how hour number 2 goes. Starting with Russ in Calgary. Hello, Russ.
Hi, Rob. Thank you for taking my call. I appreciate your show.
You're welcome. Thank you so much.
I just want to comment on a couple of the topics you're discussing, and I am not for banning cigarettes. I believe, just like a couple callers have stated already, that the black market is already very active. Lots of people will buy on reserve and bring them into the city and sell them to their friends and neighbors and things like that. And I think organized crime would have a heyday if you start to ban any age group from having cigarettes. So I think that's a negative. Of course, there's the public cost of smoking, but I mean, it's a fraction of what the cost of obesity is, as an example. So, I mean, we can use that, and I understand, but I just really think that between the black market and organized crime, it wouldn't be successful.
Fair enough.
The second point is I agree with you. Stealing is stealing. When somebody says they're making a political protest that makes it okay to steal a couple apples or an orange or a couple of lemons, I agree that is wrong. And it's the same as folks that decide to buy something from the store and use it right up until a certain point when warranty might expire and then take it back. They're really being dishonest about it. And whether you're a person of faith or you're a person in karma, one way or another, that comes back to bite you.
Okay. Thank you so much for sharing your opinion. Just to expand on this this third story that I'm talking about, as I say, this is really kind of blown up. It's more of a social media driven thing, I think, but it's happened in the last week or so. I never even heard this term before, micro-looting. Micro-looting. I'm going to play a clip. This is a Canadian from Toronto, a very well-known writer, writes for the New Yorker, okay? Gia Talenton. And the New York Times is hosting a podcast about this concept, micro-looting. Is it okay to steal sometimes, or is stealing always wrong? And this Gia Talenton told a story about how she was buying some items for a friend at Whole Foods, forgot to buy some lemons. She went back, got the lemons, and just walked out of the store without paying for them because she didn't want to line up at the checkout again. She didn't feel guilty at all. Curtis, if you will, roll clip 1 there for me, please.
Would you steal from Whole Foods?
You want to go first?
Yes. And I have, under very specific circumstances. I think that stealing from a big box store, I'll just state my platform. Mm-hmm. It's neither very significant as a moral wrong, nor is it significant in any way as protest or direct action. But I did steal from Whole Foods on several occasions, like... Mm-hmm. I've been involved in like a neighborhood mutual aid group since 2021. And so every week I would go get groceries for Miss Nancy, my now family friend who lived nearby, and she wanted to go to Whole Foods. She wanted food from Whole Foods. So I was like, okay, great. And so I'd be getting Miss Nancy all her groceries, and then I would finish and I'd be like, oh my God, 4 lemons. I forgot 4 lemons. And on several occasions I was like, I'm just going to go back, grab those 4 lemons and get the hell out. And
you should go to prison.
I know. You think they're going to ban me?
They should throw you in jail.
But I didn't feel bad about it at all.
Didn't feel bad about it at all. because Whole Foods is a big company and Whole Foods is owned by Jeff Bezos, and they're rationalizing this as though it's okay. That's why I wanted to bring that up. Do you think that's okay? Let's go to Wade. He's in Sylvan Lake, Alberta. Wade.
Hey, Rob. How are you?
I'm good. Long time no talk. Hope the battle goes well for you, sir.
Oh, it's going great. The smoking thing. Yes. I started smoking when I was right around 13. I could have been younger. I don't know. Probably the reason is because both my parents smoked, and they told us not to smoke. Right? Don't smoke. And when me and my brother got caught, we got the strap, right? And but we didn't stop smoking, and or at least I didn't. I know my brother did, but years later. And anyways, and so way back then, when everybody was talking about stop smoking, I was like, well, why don't they just stop making them then? And then I got a little older, and I realized the amount of tax revenue that they get from cigarettes. Why would they stop a cash cow, right? So that's what I got to say about that. I mean, I'm 67 years old now, and I just finished a cigarette actually, and I've been smoking all these years. I don't know, I might stop when I die. I guess I'm not sure, but I don't think there's anything wrong with banning the kids from smoking.
For life, though, for life. Like this, you're 17 years old, and you wouldn't be able to buy them when you're 27, 37, 77. What do you think about that?
Well, yeah, so I think it was you that made the point. I'm not sure who made the point earlier that if you banned it till, say, they were 25, by the time they reach 25, if they hadn't smoked up to that point, they're probably not going to. Was that you that made that point?
That's what the public health experts are saying, that if they haven't started smoking by 18, they're probably not going to take it up.
Yeah. Yeah. And getting into banning things, like seriously, if they really want to ban something, they should ban social media access on portable electronic devices for children until they're 18, not allowed to purchase or possess a smartphone.
Okay, well, that's a conversation for another day, and that's something else that the government is looking into as well. And, it's not now, it's even moved beyond social media and regulating AI, chatbots, and the like. Who knows what's coming on that front? Thank you, Wade. Just like that, hour number 2 underway on Talkback. I'm Rob Snow. This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Heidi in Strathmore, Alberta, first-time caller on Talkback. Welcome to the show, Heidi. Good to hear from you.
Hi, Rob. I enjoy listening to your show, and I hope you're doing well.
Yes, very well here today, Heidi. What's your opinion, please?
I feel that I understand what they're trying to do. I don't think that they should be doing it for the rest of that person's life. If they want to do something like that, they should set a limit, like maybe 21 or 19, whatever age you can legally drive at. But to penalize that person for the rest of their life because they're at a certain age now, and then in 10 years telling them that they can't have a cigarette when they're 27 or when they're 35, I just feel that that is an infringement on their rights as a person, as an adult. You can make your own decisions as an adult.
Okay. The claim is it will save tens of thousands of lives, Heidi, and in turn save the healthcare system tens of billions of dollars.
I understand, but if you're going to go down that road, that is a very, very slippery slope. What about all the other things that are causing cancers in this world? I mean, you can't start banning absolutely everything. And if you're going to just pick on one certain aspect, basically young people, and tell them you're going to have this penalizing thing for the rest of your life, I feel that that is extremely, extremely wrong.
Okay, goes too far. All right, Heidi in Strathmore, thank you very much. Chad in Bedford, beautiful Bedford, Nova Scotia. Hello, Chad.
How you doing today, Rob?
Yeah, very good, Chad. Thanks. Yeah, good to hear from you. What's your opinion, please?
All right, Chad, I'm calling myself. Rob, this is what's going on. I backpacked Australia back in 2010, and they were raising the prices back then, I think like $3 a year. That's why when that guy called earlier, he said it was around $50 a pack, and that's true. So what happened was, back then, I went to a convenience store, and these guys were laughing about it. They're saying, we're going to make a killing. We'll just sell the cigarettes at what the cost they go for. And they're bringing them in from, wherever. They're in Asian markets, so they're just bringing them in, making a lot of money. I don't think it will do anything, Rob. What's it going to do here? People are still going to smoke, so I don't get it. I'm like, what are we doing? Like, raise the cost, I guess. Maybe that'll be deterrent, but you can't ban them. People are just going to smoke cigarettes, Rob.
Yeah. Well, I remember in the 1990s in Ontario, the Ontario government kept raising the taxes on cigarettes. Every year the budget would come out, up the sin taxes, to where I think in the mid 90s, it was something like $15 a pack or something in Ontario for a pack of cigarettes. And the same exact thing happened. The smuggling that was happening in places like Ganawagi and places like that, Cornwall, Ontario, and there were crackdowns. I remember the mayor of Cornwall was facing death threats at the time. He had to go into hiding, and eventually the government had to back off and lower the taxes because the smuggling situation had gotten so bad.
Yeah, Rob, like I said, I don't think it's a good idea because if like $50 per pack of cigarettes, like that, it's just, I don't even know how you can, like, what are you doing at that? Like, what's going on? Like, there's going to be other ways to get nicotine, right? Like, so I don't get that. And I don't think we should straight up ban it here. Like, you can't even see it in shelves in Nova Scotia anymore. So if a kid goes into a convenience store, they're not even promoting it. So you wouldn't even know unless maybe your parents smoked or whatnot. But it's just a waste of time for me to, you're not going to ban them. People are going to smoke cigarettes. It's not,
Okay. You don't think it would be effective. It's a very popular opinion today. I'm surprised, actually, by the number of callers who are opposed to this idea. I thought there would be a greater level of support, I must say, than what I've heard so far. We'll stop here. Hang on the line. Our callers in Kitchener and Calgary. We'll get to you. It's very busy today, especially on this topic. Banning for life the younger generation from smoking cigarettes, or buying cigarettes. Never be able to buy cigarettes for the rest of their lives. In the UK, under its new law, be effective New Year's Day. And if you were born January 1st, 2009 or later, you'd never be able to buy cigarettes. Wouldn't matter how old you were. What do you think of that idea? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Banning for life anyone under the age of 18 from buying cigarettes. What do you think about that idea? The rest of their lives. There are other stories in the news cycle that we've been talking about today. The Carney Liberals looking at privatizing Canada's airports and this idea of micro-looting, which is a new term for me, otherwise known as shoplifting. Micro-looting, okay? Some people on the left are saying, yeah, go ahead, steal stuff from big box stores. They're owned by big corporations. They're owned by billionaires. It's not like they'll miss the money. Do it as a form of political protest. You'll stick it to the man. What do you think about that? Tina is a first-time caller from Calgary. Hi, Tina.
Good afternoon, Rob. How are you?
I'm very good, Tina. Yeah. What's your opinion?
Well, a very long time ago, someone said to me, there is no right way to do the wrong thing. And I think if you apply that to most of the decisions you're talking about, that stealing is wrong, whether that be a pack of gum or whether that be a car. You can rationalize it all you want. It is still wrong. Sure. The same with government intervention. We are asking our children people say that these children do not make good decisions. That's been said throughout everyone's life. The way we empower our children and our young people is to allow them the information and the resources and the choices. If we take those choices away, why do they need to develop their critical thinking? And you can rationalize that smoking is evil, smoking is bad, and yes, we all know it is. Just as you say, alcohol and sugar and fatty foods. If we take those choices away from people, then they can say, it's not my fault. We have to give people responsibility, and we have to give people the ability to be proud of the decisions that they make. We're taking that away from people. It's just my opinion.
Okay. So to wrap a bow on that, you're against us, right?
I am against the government intervention that every time. The thing about smoking is that it's unpopular. If you said you could not buy alcohol, as you have said, and I know you know, is so much more damaging than just about any of the vices out there, with social services, with health, with money, with relationships.
Sure.
But that
destroys whole lives, destroys families.
Decision. Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
Yeah. And what would happen? What would happen? Right? We would have bootleggers running rampant. We would have speakeasies. We would,
and
right?
We would have
we would
have massive protests. Smoking is an easy target. So, okay, is this a bad thing? Probably not. But then what's next? I am from Alberta. We are not going into gun laws. But again, it's one thing at a time. It's easy to say we don't want government intervention until we have a problem and we want government to fix it. We need to take responsibility. We need to take responsibility for our children, and we need to let them make really solid decisions, because that's how you gain confidence. That's how these kids will develop a solid moral boundaries. If you tell your kid it's okay because somebody is wealthy and you're not, well, what are we saying? What are we saying? Said there's no right way to do the wrong thing.
Right. Okay. All right, Tina. I love the call. Thank you. Yeah, I love the analysis there. 1-833-668-2577. Very busy news day. Very busy news week. The latest breaking news is coming right up, and then right back to your phone calls as we kick around the news cycle today with your help here on Talkback on News Radio.
This is the new Weight Watchers, built for real life and real results, no matter what mode you're in. Maddie went all in for her big day and lost 33 pounds. Emily lost 85 pounds and hit her goal while still living her life.
Weight Watchers gave me the tools and I feel amazing.
Join the millions of members and lose weight with the #1 doctor-recommended weight loss program. Lose more at WeightWatchers.com.
At 6 months, participants in a clinical trial of Weight Watchers program lost an average of 12 pounds.
Deal.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yes, in the home stretch of the Thursday Talkback, we've been kicking around some stories in the news cycle. And we've been asking questions like, should the Canadian government follow the lead of the UK government and ban for life, anyone under the age of 18 from buying cigarettes? That has been a hot topic today on Talkback, but also out there in the news, you have the Carney Liberals say they're looking at privatizing the country's airports. What do you think of that idea? Having a for-profit company take control of the day-to-day operations of the airport, as opposed to, say, having the airport run by your local airport authority, whether it's a Calgary Airport Authority, Halifax Airport Authority, Toronto Airport Authority. And stealing from big box stores, I mean, it's out there for public consumption. You have some high-profile people on the left saying there's nothing wrong with that. taking stuff from Whole Foods or Walmart or whatever the case might be. The big corporations, they won't miss the money. What do you think about that? 1-833-668-2577. What does that say about where we are with our ethics, with our moral compass? Jim in Kitchener. Hello, Jim. Hi, Jim.
Hello, Rob. You're an
Yes,
asset to my afternoon once again, Rob. I love
God
your
bless you.
myriad of topics. You got a whole bunch of colors today. The lady with the lemon story on micro-looting, you and I both are new to this term, micro-looting. So one of my hobbies is neology. And here's what come out of my pen. It said, all thieves have nerves of steel. And you spell steel, S-T-E-A-L. All thieves have nerves of steel. So that's for the lady in the lemon story. Now, another thing I want to point out is I pay off my Visa card every month to the penny. And on my statement I have in front of me that they have raised my purchases from 21.99%, from 19.99% to 21.99% without informing me. So I'm putting this out to you and your listening audience that I'm sure all the banks have done this to all of us without informing us. So what came out of my pen with that little ditty was that all banks take us from fees to famine.
Fees to famine. Okay. All right. No, I didn't know about that. I haven't heard anything about that. They're micro-looting you. They're micro-looting you.
Back on my statement. Pardon me.
You're being micro-looted.
You're good, man. You're so good. I also, a few months back, I read a big story in the Saturday Financial Post. It was Trump and Musk having a face-to-face. And what came out of my pen after reading this full-page story was be honest and make millions, be dishonest and make billions. So that's a little bit of humor for everybody today. And Rob, your show is fantastic. I really love that you cover all these topics because you get different callers coming in. Terrific show today, and my pleasure to call.
Well, thank you, Jim. My pleasure to take your call. And gosh, if you could call back every day, you really brighten up my day. Let's go to Tyler. He's in Kitchener. Yeah, Tyler's in Kitchener too. Hi, Tyler.
Hey, how's it going?
Yeah, very good, Tyler. Thank you. Yep.
Good. I had a lot of points on the smoking ban, but I think the woman from Alberta, I didn't quite catch her name, but I think she pretty much hit the nail on the head.
Tina, yeah.
I think they're overly, and to save everyone and all your listeners the time, I think I'll just sum up my opinion as they're overly paternalistic policies, and they're just kind of taken away from any sort of autonomy that we should be protecting as a purchaser and as an individual. And I thought that he just did great on explaining that. So I just want to give a kudos.
So if I could, there used to be this term. It's not really used very much anymore. It was kind of popular a decade ago. It's the nanny state. You know that term, the nanny state?
Yeah, okay.
Nobody says that anymore. This kind of comes across as nanny state-ish, doesn't it?
Yeah, and it kind of makes sense. I mean, the UK is very one of the more surveillance countries in the world, and so I see how their slope has gone, and it almost should come at no surprise that now they're doing this ban because it's just kind of continuing on this overreaching, very nanny state-esque government, and so it's a shame. But yeah, just shout out to the woman from Alberta there. I thought that was a great point.
Okay, yeah, it was a good call, wasn't it, Tina from Calgary? Yeah. Your call's pretty good too, Tyler. Thank you. Yeah, thank you. The nanny state. Is it nanny state-ish? And by nanny state, we mean government interfering in decisions that are best left in the home. If you don't want your children to buy cigarettes or you don't want your children to become smokers, then that's up to you to explain to them that the dangers of becoming addicted to nicotine, and do your level best to make sure that they never become smokers in the first place. That, of course, they're going to experiment, but you need to dissuade them from doing that. And it's not the government's role to make that decision. It's one point of view. But the public health experts, the people who have been involved in anti-smoking campaigns for decades, are saying this would be a major leap forward in the interests of public health. Could potentially save tens of thousands of lives down the road and potentially save the healthcare system tens of billions of dollars if you institute this ban, as they're doing in the UK, effective New Year's Day of 2027. And that 17-year-old, not only would they be banned for buying cigarettes as a 17-year-old, they would never be allowed to buy cigarettes, ever. And that's the only way that you'll ever eradicate the scourge of cigarette smoking from society, which is the ultimate aim. I'm Rob Snow. Where do you fall on that? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
So the topic that really took off today on Talkback was this idea of trying to have a smoke-free generation by banning cigarette sales for life for anyone born after a certain date. The UK is doing this, banning the sale of all tobacco products for people born on or after January 1st of 2009. If you're born on that day or after that date, you'll never be able to buy cigarettes again. Ever. Ever. For the rest of your life. What do you think about that? Because they put that to the health minister in the federal government in Ottawa and the justice minister as well, Sean Fraser from Nova Scotia, and they said they're looking into it. They don't have legislation in the works, but they're looking at what they're doing in the UK, what has happened elsewhere, and they're thinking about it. They're thinking about it. So, you know, the way the UK law is going to work is, as of New Year's Day, 2027, that 17-year-old will never be allowed to buy cigarettes ever for the rest of their lives. For the rest of their lives is the significant thing, right? Because it takes away, as some have said, even the choice of that person eventually when they're all grown up and they're, 25, 35, 85, they still wouldn't be allowed to buy cigarettes as long as, it says on their birth certificate they were born on or after January 1st of 2009. Some people aren't crazy about that idea. What about you, Brian in Ingersoll? Hello, Brian. Hi, Brian. Are you with me, Brian? No, did we lose Brian? Okay, that's too bad. Let's try Jessica then in Calgary. Hi, Jessica.
Hi.
Hi, Jessica.
So I know nothing about this other than what I've learned in the last 20 minutes listening to your show. But
okay. So what do you think about it?
Avidly against smoking. I say this as somebody who enjoys wine and understands the ramifications or the pros and cons. But in the world of smoking, unfortunately, I'm not seeing a lot of pros to having this be something that continues in our being available in our society. Aside from, I know there's cultural and some ethnicities that have significance to it. But something that I've toyed with in my head a couple times is this idea of changing the age of eligibility and just keep rolling it a year ahead. So essentially, 10 years from now, somebody who's 28 or older would be eligible to buy cigarettes. And then 20 years from now would be 38 or older is eligible to purchase cigarettes. And so it is kind of in line with this ban. I really don't know how they begin to administer a lifetime ban on not being able to buy cigarettes. That's like, are they going to tattoo on your forehead a big cigarette with a line through it? But in the world of having to provide,
well, they're going to have to. I suspect. I mean, there'll be strict, ID requirements. People will have to be able to show ID. And the retailers are going to have to enforce checking IDs, and there'll probably be severe penalties for retailers who you violate the law, right? Something like that.
I guess.
That would be how it would work.
The administrative of how do you ban somebody for life? Like, are you putting a symbol on their driver's license, and then, if you've got this symbol on your driver's license, it shows that you did something when you were under the age of 18. That your criminal record below the age of 18 is essentially secret, anyways. Like, so it's very. I struggle with the logistics, but I do support this idea of essentially aging out cigarettes and just
aging
continuing
out cigarettes,
them being. Yeah.
Okay. Okay.
That's my opinion.
Yep. Fair enough. Yeah. Thank you. Where are we going? Let's try Chris in Calgary up next. Chris.
Hey, Rob. How you doing?
Hi, Chris. Very good, Chris. Yeah.
So,
go ahead.
I'm calling about this whole smoking thing. So,
yes.
Funny enough, I'm actually a tobacco rep for the company I work with.
Okay.
So this is something that they've been talking about for years. Hence the reason why they've been going from the color ban, which took effect on packaging 13 years ago or 5 years ago, flavor bans for cigars, anything like that. And that's how the vape trend started. But the biggest thing right now is they can do this all they want, but it's not going to do anything. For the simple fact is all the government is doing is feeding the illicit tobacco trade more and more and more and more. So it's not that retailers in the business are losing money because customers are not smoking anymore. It's because people are going and buying it illegally because it's cheaper. A couple years ago when Trudeau was still in office, when they had the excise tax increase, I remember someone in Ottawa mentioned about dropping the taxes on tobacco. So that way people started buying stuff legally and now it's clean and getting away from the illegal trade. That's a big issue right now is the illicit tobacco. And this ban is just going to fuel that more and more and more.
Yeah, a number of people have raised that it's just going to mean, more people going to whatever reserves, buying black market cigarettes, whatever, right?
And this tobacco, okay. It's not clean on how it's made or produced. Who knows where it's made, right? But they can try the ban if they want. I like what the girl said, rolling it year by year. I get it, but ultimately it affects my job for the most part. But I understand where they're going with it.
Okay. All right. I mean, the bigger question that a lot of people have raised today is, well, what about grown-ups being grown-ups? When am I grown-up allowed to make my own grown-up decisions? Even decisions that may be bad for me. Do I not still have the freedom to make decisions, even decisions that may be bad for me? Or is the government going to be moving to prevent me from making any bad decisions at all? And where does it end? Okay, today it's cigarettes. Tomorrow it's alcohol. Somebody mentioned, fatty foods, sugary drinks, sugary cereals, gambling in all its forms. Just where does it end? This is News Radio.
Have something on your mind you want everyone to know?
Call now.
Hello.
1-833-668-2577.
It's Talkback on Now You Know with Rob Snow.
Yes, it is. Talkback. Linda in Southern Alberta up next. Hello, Linda.
Hello. Thanks for taking my call.
Hi, Linda. You're welcome, Linda.
Yes, as far as that woman she thought it was okay to steal. Well, I was raised that stealing's a sin. So for me, it's ethically, morally, and legally wrong, period. I don't care what flag you want to fly it under. And as far as dropping or eliminating the choices for teenagers to smoke, well, I mean, if you're dropping the age so they can have alcohol, you drop the age so that they can vote. Where are you drawing the line at what they can do and what they can't? And you're saying they're smart enough to do this and this, but they're not smart enough not to do this, as in make choices.
Oh, I see, Linda.
And then for me, the last comment I'll make on that is our teenagers of tomorrow are our voters, or our teenagers of today are our voters of tomorrow. So I think when politicians make these decisions, they need to realize who they're addressing, and those ones are going to come back and address them years down the road.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you very much, Linda. Thank you for all your calls. Very, very, very busy on that one. Surprised by the The amount of interest in that topic. Let me just close on this. This is a pretty significant date in Canadian politics. Okay, April 30th. It was on this day in 1987. Prime Minister Brian Mulroney and all 10 provincial premiers reached an agreement on a constitutional reform package that was intended to bring Quebec into the Constitution. It became known as the Meech Lake Accord. And among the most contentious proposals of the Meech Lake Accord was the recognition of Quebec as a distinct society. And while Mulroney managed to get all the premiers on side in 1987, the accord eventually withered and died over the years. And one of the main antagonists was Pierre Elliott Trudeau, who came out of retirement to lead the opposition to the accord, saying it would erode federal power. This is what he told the CBC's Barbara Frum at the time.
I don't think we need special powers in Quebec. I'm as good as you are, Barbara. I'm as good as any English-speaking Canadian from any province. And I believe most Canadian young businessmen, artists, writers, performers, sportsmen, they think they're as good as anyone. Who needs special powers? The politicians. They're the ones who want special powers naturally because they're in the power game. And what they can get from Ottawa, they will have more in Charlottetown, in Quebec City, in Victoria, BC. That's the game of politics, power. But you don't need to live in an Ontario with special power to protect you. You have a Charter of Rights which protects you. You say you're as good as anyone else under the Charter. Women, men, black, white, Catholic, Jewish, Protestant, they're all equal under the Charter. Now, what about these politicians saying, well, we need special powers? I don't need politicians with special powers to protect me because I'm no weaker than you are and I don't need to be more protected than you are.
It turned out to be a grave mistake. The failure of the Meech Lake Accord sparked a new rise in the separatist movement in Quebec. 3 years later, Bouchard revolted against the Mulroney government, formed the Bloc Québécois, and 5 years later, we had the 1995 referendum and almost lost the country. All set into motion 39 years ago today.
This is the new Weight Watchers, built for real life and real results, no matter what mode you're in. Maddie went all in for her big day and lost 33 pounds. Emily lost 85 pounds and hit her goal while still living her life.
Weight Watchers gave me the tools and I feel amazing.
Join the millions of members and lose weight with the #1 doctor-recommended weight loss program. Lose more at WeightWatchers.com.
At 6 months, participants in a clinical trial of Weight Watchers program lost an average of 12 pounds.